The oral tradition of storytelling is the oldest of all of our traditions. Long before the flute, the rattle, and even the drum, there were storytellers. And unlike today, those storytellers were not thought of as just entertainers. They were teachers and historians. Having no written language, it was storytelling that preserved our legends, our history, and much of our culture. But storytelling was also used as a method of teaching the young ones, and sometimes reminding the not-so-young ones how to live in a good way.
It on my Facebook, Willis. You can see it there. All right, you guys, welcome to today's show. We are on day whatever. I don't even know what day. I was starting the day counts before. I think we're on day 6. I think day 6 of Indigenous storytelling. And as you guys know, we are going live 12 to 2 all of February to bring as many Indigenous storytelling from different backgrounds as we can. So if you guys can do me a favor while you're watching, share this video. We have another awesome guest today. We have 2 guests today, actually. And one is my friend, Willis Janvier from the Dene Yate podcast. And the other one is our special guest is Gary Oker. I hope I said that right. He'll correct me if I'm wrong. But we're going to get right into it, you guys. Gary doesn't have too much time with us today, so this is probably a little shorter podcast today. But today we are going to be learning about the Dene people. So take it away, Gary. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the CWS Indigenous Storytelling.
Hey, Sai Wu John La Ju. Today, hey, what dick odds la have. Oh, John, then the say what you the hey Wu John. So, my name is Gary Oker. I'm on council with Doig River First Nation. My portfolio is about cultural revitalization and making sure that we get the Beaver language, which is on the verge of extinction. Not very many people understand it. I'm sure that's happening in a lot of Dene people's communities. The young people are not picking it up. So as elderly people, we need to step up to the game ourselves. So that means we need to do something creative and interesting so that people can really appreciate the beauty and the importance of language. Because what it does, it's our framework of who we are as people. So our story goes back over 12,500 years. And I'm going to show you a map here shortly to show you where and what's happening. And a few years back, we hosted a Dene gathering, and there was a Dene gathering in Calgary. I don't know if some of you may have came to that. But I think it's really important that the fragments of information, fragments of stories are put together to create the real encyclopedia of the Dene people, which goes back thousands and thousands of years. And we are so fortunate to have, so maybe I'll show you the map so that everybody understands what I'm talking about. I'm inside my studio here, and I'll just give you a look here. So one of the things that we do with our studio is to really work on creating the visual. So anyways, here's the map. So here we are. Doig River First Nation is right there.
That's by the Alberta border, eh?
Yeah, it's right by the Alberta border, right here. Alberta border is right. Okay, where am I here? Right there.
Yeah.
So what I heard, so what happened, I'm just trying to get organized here with this visual here. There we go. So what's really interesting is that some of the artifacts found goes all the way down to the Dakotas, way down here. That's 1,500 kilometers away. Some of them also come over to the Anaheim Lake area. That's like 500 kilometers southwest. And then there's a Sikini River up here, 600 kilometers. And then all the way up north to Alaska area, over 200 kilometers up north. So when I showed this map to other Dene people, there's some people from Cold Lake area, Saskatchewan area. There's a group that went up this way that took them 2-year journey on their traditional area. And then about here, they traded with the Beaver people. And then there's another group that's over here that did the line too. So this is probably the Slave Lake area right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
That
anyway,
would be Willis's area, eh?
No,
yeah, something.
I'm from Saskatchewan, Laloche, Saskatchewan. So
that up here somewhere in this area.
Yeah.
So what's really interesting is that if you look at, this is the Site C building I'm showing you. These are all the different artifacts found. And then some of them actually have blood on them of the mammoth.
Wow.
So this is the Site C that's being built. Tens of thousands of artifacts found along the river, the Mighty Peace River.
Yeah.
And then you look at the map of all the different Dene languages, you'll see there's all kinds of amazing languages of the Dene people.
So just like the Cree languages, we have different dialects. That's the same kind of thing with the Dene language?
Oh, yeah. Everywhere, there's a lot of similarity to it. But definitely multiple languages. So
yeah, just so as our views
to actually put all that together, not from a linguistic point of view, but from our point of view, because over the years I found that linguistic people are the one that caused this confusion, I think, in my mind, because we're supposed to actually understand the linguistic of an oral tradition and try to write it down to make sound out of it. It just doesn't work as far as I know. You got to hear the words. So I've been quite lucky in my life that I grew up with my grandparents who were Bush people. And also another very important thing is that my family comes from a line of Nachine. Nachine are dreamers. So they dream, and then in their dream they can travel to the spirit world and have a journey, and then when they wake up, they come back with a song.
Like that?
Like a song like that.
That was perfect timing.
I know. It's like, hey, I got a call from somebody here saying, okay, keep talking. So the dreamer songs, my grandpa was a dreamer, and great-grandfather goes way back down. So these stories that go back over 10, there's a cave here at Charlie Lake, right close to where I live, that has evidence of 12,500 years.
Wow.
And we own it as a nation, and with 2 other nations, Prophet River and West Moberly. So what we're turning that into is a repository to develop educational information for the younger generation to know about the history, about all this. And then we're working with Site C, the Hydro, to actually build a beaver house, a cultural heritage house. So we'll put it all together. And what we're asking a lot of Dene people is to bring in their stories. What do they remember about bow and arrow days? Tuss. That's what we call it. Tuss is it's a bow and arrow days stories. So one of the things is tagale. I don't know if how you guys see that tagale.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
the same?
Yeah, Talgale.
Yeah, Tagale. So I'm a song keeper and also coordinator of the other Doig River drummers. So we go out and do a lot of ceremonies and for funerals and things like that. So our belief system really is about when tanataya, it means when you walk, when you go to your spirit goes back to the spirit world, to heaven or to however you want to describe it, but the spirit world. These songs guide them in that world. They follow these songs to get back to the spirit world. So I'm gonna sing a song here. It's one of the traditional songs here. That's a traditional prayer song that we use, that grandpa song. Na chine wang la he gona a za don ton chi don zen gu shen ye bilike naga ye en la he. En zo naga ye li tla en da tanaka ha ye chine tanata we satala he. So I just explained that the Beaver people, the dreamers, they would dream and then they would bring back these songs, and they wake up and they will play it, and then other drummers will come and straighten it out. They call it. They straighten out these songs, and then people can start to dance with it. And we have tea dances here, and all the Dene people that I know have tea dances. So in other words, we drink lots of tea while we dance.
Yeah.
Herbal medicine.
Yeah.
So that's one of the kind of introduction to it. But today we are doing revitalization of our language. We really need to step it up. So we want to allow the young people to create something, to express themselves. Not so much in the terms of, oh, you got to do it only this way, but any way that they can. And I think as elders, the older people, we have to hold that space for those young people. Once we hold a space, here's some basic stuff that you can use. Then you can be able to move it forward and express new ideas, new expressions of who we are as Dene people. So that's a really important thing. I know I've talked to the national chief, Norman, before, and keep in contact with them and keep in contact with other nations so that we can start sharing things with each other and how do we improve it. So one of the things, what I like is music. So I'm going to play a couple songs here for you.
And Willis, if you
I don't know
can
if you
sing
can hear it. I'll
along,
plug it in
can
here.
you sing along with Gary as well when he sings?
Oh, our language. What dialect? That's a totally different dialect language. I'm sure some of it I can understand, but yeah, very different than what we speak in Saskatchewan and Alberta.
Mm.
Yeah.
And this is why stuff like this is important to make those connections and show everyone, you know, how similar we are, but also how diverse and different we are at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very important piece to acknowledge that we are different. We all have our language that's coming from the land based on that environmental area. But one of the things that I've noticed in my journey of understanding what it means, the question is like, why is it that Dene people are the only ones that have snare drums? That's a really interesting question that one needs to kind of consider, because a lot of our songs are spiritual songs, and these are vibrations of those. That's why we have them. I know the Dene when they make their drum, they put it in the front.
Yeah.
So
and
even when you
guys put it in the back, is that how you do it?
Yeah, we put it in the back. So it still creates the same effect.
Yeah.
So what I've been researching, talking to a lot of people, is about why that happened. Like, why is that compared to other tribes? If you go across the northern region of the world, they all have that.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting to have something very unique in the world. There is so my understanding of it is it's a spiritual vibrational thing. So if we look at vibrations and because on a spiritual world everything is a vibration. That's I've experienced it myself in a dream time, and other people have said the same thing. In a spiritual world, everything is vibrations and sound. So I had a dream one time when I asked my grandpa. In the dream, I was playing his song, and in the dream we just talk to each other through the mind. You don't actually say that word. You just, whatever you think, you already know each other's thinking. And that's one of the things the dreamers know how to do. They just know each other. So then he said to me, "Oh, just keep playing it. It's getting there." So typical of me, I always said, "Hey, Grandpa, but I don't want to just sing your song. I want to know where you got that. How did that happen to you?" And then at that moment, he said, "If you're thinking in your mind, go inside. So that means if in your mind, if you're thinking about this, go inside." Just then a big huge drum floated out of nowhere, and then was just floating there like that. And for a brief second I hesitated and was shocked by that. And then he said, "It's okay, we've been there before." So then I got up and I just jumped into the actual drum. I drove right into it. And then when it was like diving into the water. So when I went inside there, I saw all the energy, the sound, all the beautiful colors, the colors we don't see here. So, I think that's what they were talking about. Jushin, Matawates Alon He. These songs are important. Matawates means like very important. Ajakili Tawatsit. Don't let it go. Hang on to it. So with that in mind, I thought
I got a real quick question.
Yes.
Where did the Dene where did the word Dene originate from? I got my Cree teacher here asking that.
Well, we call ourselves Dane.
Dane?
Dane means a person.
Dane, yeah, Dane.
Dane means a person.
Yeah.
Dane za means real person. So I know a lot of the Dene people consider themselves the real people.
Mm. I know Dene Suchline means all of us, all of our people. Dene Suchline, all
Yes.
of our, yeah. So everybody in, I mean, you mentioned before, it's a very diverse, so, and we're everywhere, and we're either or Athabascan, or, but we're all one as Dene Suchline.
I think that's the most beautiful thing that we got going. And once we bring in all these different, I don't know if you were at the Dene gathering in Calgary, Tene.
No.
Our music is so beautiful. Our music from all different regions, when it's all come together, it's on a YouTube. So the Dene gathering is on the YouTube, so you can see that. But it's beautiful when all kinds of people came from different regions, and they're all playing their songs, and it's all the same but different, and that's our power. We're all the same, but we're different, because that gives us a different view of things. Because if we're all talking the same language, I'm sure we can be like the Maoris. When the Maori people, they have revitalized their language in a really big way.
Oh,
yeah.
I lived down there in 2005 and 6, and I was adopted in by a Maori family. And yeah, their language revitalization is 20 years ahead of us, and how they're doing everything.
Yeah, I was talking to another Dene up north, and I said to him, I was over there too myself, and I met beautiful people. They're very musical. They see the world in a musical sense, and that's where I got inspired to really explore this idea that the language is musical. It's a very musical thing. So, but the Maoris are all Maoris, so that's why they can do it. They can. There's lots of people, and they all speak Maori. Whereas we're Dene people, but we have all kinds of Dene people all over the country, and that's what makes it hard to really build a national Dene language, even though people were talking about that one time. Like, what can we do to do a one dialogue thing for everybody to speak? That could be an interesting challenge, but also.
I don't think it's possible.
So one of the ways that I like doing that is with music. So Dene is a musical thing, and so I'm going to sing a song in Beaver language. So people were asking, okay, can you guys sing in your language? And I said, yeah, we can. So here's an example. Akwe tinji denya, akwe tinji denya, akwe denasi, akwe tinji denya, Ata wasti jitane tong chela we dia ata wati ha ha ha. Akwe bichi ya yakeja kenika. Akwe bichi ya Ata wasti Tane Tong Chela Wedia Hata Puteji Ha 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 Yeah, that song is about Wigina Yata Hataku Dinchi. When you're walking, think God in your mind. And a lot of times in the Dene way of being, or Beaver people for sure, anyways, we do private prayers to things and to our ancestors to watch over us. Hakai ta, yake watane means the sky keepers.
Yake.
Hakai ta, yake, I think it's very similar to other Dene, eh?
Yeah. And the sky. Yeah.
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 So to me, that is a very important thing that we have that ability to ask for yake pitane gona to watch over us as we're walking and doing our business, and to make sure that these songs that we are sending help us protect us on the trail. Like sometimes we call them songs ahead of time. So when we send these songs on that trail, it becomes blessed. It's blessed by the time our destination is already going to be good. So that's why they always said when I was younger, my grandma always used to say, it will be there for you if you pray for them and ask them to help you. So I think that's one of the things that a very humbling thing that we have to do is that we ask for help when we need it, especially in this time of COVID era. And it's real. I want to tell people that this is real business, that COVID is real business. We just lost an elder from COVID the other day. So it's really coming close into our community now. And it's very, it's challenging times. So those people that want to go and continue partying and thinking that it's okay, it's not okay. This is real. We got to take care of our elders. We got to take care of the people that are, not well. Make sure that they don't get sick with this mates eli, like bad medicine stuff, So, so I'll sing another song here.
Yeah. Willis wants to join here.
Huh?
Willis, I'm trying to get him to join.
No, I don't barely understand some of it, but cool listening to it.
This song is it's called Ujon Sawonje.
Ujo Saunje.
Yeah, Ujon Sawonje. Speak good for me.
Speak good.
Ujon means good. Sawonje is speak well for me. So it's basically a song about that when the spirit leaves the earth and goes back to home, we always say in our prayers and our songs that when we help the spirit leave with the drum songs and get them going, that we ask them to speak good for us when they get there, especially if they see our relatives up there and say, let them know we're still thinking about them, and that hopefully they can sing down a song for us. And we continue this journey of still respecting our ancestors and following the way they want us to follow, which is being the best version of who we are as Dene people, the Naza people. We are now the best version of our ancestors. And as long as we are thinking that in our minds, we are going to do good things for the next generation to follow us. So with language vitalization is important, that our thinking, that the way we think, that we never lose it. And we know that when we go out in the bush, then Kema is a place where it's pure place, a pure place in nature, undisturbed by man. We call it Kema.
Kima.
Go to bush, go to the bush. And gotcha. Oh, it's very similar, right?
Yeah.
Let's go over there.
Yeah.
Here's a song called Ujo Sawonje. Ujo Sawonje. Ujo Sawonje. Waiting ya te hawe, waiting ya te ha, ya ke I want you. Ujo Sawonje. Ujo Sawonje. We done echi da ke nastia que on land da wasti ke on land da wastia que on land ke nastia. Ujo Sawonje. Ujo Sawonje. Ujo Sawonje. It's good for me.
Wow, man, that was
Really good.
man, that's really good. I thought you were rapping there for a bit there.
I was.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
That's pretty deadly, man. That is pretty right on.
So I think with music, we can really encourage young people to pick it up, because I know there's a lot of talent out there. A lot of young people know how to do all these modern raps and everything. We just got to give them the words so that they can start using the Dene, Beaver language, whatever that the Baskin kinship languages. And we're going to start doing that with our young people. And a lot of them already, the younger ones already speak and kind of do rapping stuff. So that's kind of fun to see that. So another thing I'd like to just kind of comment on that was it's actually to make sure that the young people have toolkits. Elders toolkit is what we're working on right now. A lot of times the elders they can tell stories, but some of them are not good teachers. So we have to call it out for what it is. Some people are just great storytellers, but they're not teachers. But that's their way of teaching is through stories. But there's a lot of people that know these stuff, but they just don't have the tools, because it's got to be visual. We got to hear it, we got to see it, and we got to feel it in order to get the language working and people to be excited about it. So that's why language is very important. So what we built was language toolkits, where elders can have drums, medicines, and all kinds of moccasins and different things that they make, and use those to teach the language. Even the beading. I know a lot of the ladies do beadwork, so they can be able to do that too, to make sure that they can speak in Beaver in even the colors, looking at the colors and how they, what it all, the names are. Assist, like hides, and all these different things can be used. So very important to help elders bring their tools together, so that when we call upon them to come and tell us a story or teach us a song, they can have the tools to show us what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Especially for younger people, if you don't have the background of your language, it's hard to know what it is until you show them. Because I could talk about the songs, the Gunachi, and people won't understand me until they see the drum. Oh, he's talking about the drum, right? So that's one of the ways I like doing that. I'll just show you a couple more samples here. Here's another example of artworks. See, I use Kema.
What's Kema?
Kema is a pure place in nature.
That almost sounds like a Cree word as well. So I think Celeste, you're watching. Is that a Cree word, Kema?
Kema.
Kema.
So Kema is when you're out in the bush camping, pure place in nature.
Peaceful.
So encourage your artists to get involved with that, and then they can build the background for some of these words. And then also using card games. So I'm working on a project right now. We got these characters that we're putting together. We got Norway, Swan Man, Beaver Woman, Saya is another character of the stories.
How do you say beaver?
Tsa.
Yeah, same with us.
Yeah. So then other words that I put into my artwork, and to really showcase what it is. And here's the latest, greatest one I'm working on right now. And this is actually the song of Finding Your Song. And then you can see the people dancing on the trail to heaven. Like they're gone back home on their trail to heaven. So one of the things that I was told, and I wanted to kind of leave that idea with you guys and the listeners, the most important thing for us as Dene people and Beaver and the Athabascan, we have lots of kinship all over, and we want to bring it all together so that we have our one encyclopedia of the Dene people, all the way from Siberia to California. And there's lots of different groups. Wouldn't that be so nice to come back and tell the whole story from our people, not linguistics? Sure, we can use them to help us give the scientific data to prove it, but we don't need them to tell our story. We need to take that back. So that's what we're trying to do in revitalization of our culture, language, to make sure that we don't lose our thinking of what it means to be Dene, what it means to be a human being. So one of the things that when I was a young boy, my grandma said to me, because back in the day we were living in a cabin and no running water, electricity, we have to go down to the river to get the water. So one day she took me and she said, "Chu Hawaiian," said she, "Let's go get water."
Chu, that's how you say water. Chu.
Chu, yeah.
Two, we say two.
You guys say that too?
Two, no, we say two. Two.
Water.
Two, water, yeah.
Pretty close, yeah. Chu Hawaiian. So let's go get water. So we went down to the creek and we filled up the jugs and just ready to go. And she said, "No, John Santa. I want you to sit here. Santa.
Hinda.
Ji chu ta. Look at this water. Ji chu gata long hai. Gata, that means it's alive. And she said, and then she just picked the water up and left me right there. So I know, like when I reflect back to that whole episode of that, was that she wanted me to get power from water or something. Because back in the day, a lot of our people sent young people out in the bush to get power. And if animals talk to you or something, you're going to have medicine power. Something will come to you, will help you be a strong man or a woman. So that's what she was doing. But so 50 years later, scientific people figured it out that, hey, water is alive.
Yeah.
And there was actually some studies done where they put water in a jar, and then they put intentions to it. And then they froze the water and they looked at through the microscope. And the one that was all negative was all distorted. And even in some cases, it changed color to darkness. Where the ones that with positive vibration created beautiful snowflake designs.
Yeah.
So that is a confirmation of our Dene knowledge. And that's what we need to do as Dene people. We need to take the best emergent knowledge and scientific discoveries, compare to ours, and then that way people will understand it more. So I think that I'm really excited about doing that kind of discussion, because it really shows what our people knew. They know a lot of stuff. There's a lot of wisdom in those stories and knowledge. We just got to dig deeper into it. So that was one thing that was really important. So another thing she always said to me was, "Na yena yite sa on no hai. Na yena yite sa on. Na yena, that means your song.
Yeah.
Yite is in the upper head. Sa on, it's sitting there. Na yena yite sa on. It means that your song is ahead of you already, just waiting for you to pick it up or come to it on the trail." So trails are important. So if you look at all the different migrations and hunting patterns and everything like that, there's always a trail that people follow. And they can tell stories about all these trails, just like those one group of Dene people told me. It took them 2 years to follow that trail on their journey. It was such a beautiful story that they told me. And then all along the way, they found different things, different purposes, water and things like that they need.
How do you
and
say
different?
road? How do you say road in Beaver?
Tane.
Tana.
Tane.
Tana. Yeah.
A tane could be, there's different way of saying it, but it's like a tane is like the road, the trail.
Yeah. Tuluke. Tu. Belu. So frozen ice. Okay. Road, right? Tuluke. Yeah. So and I had one guy. His name is Victor Zasazi. He's from the Saizi Dene. He shared a bunch of that knowledge with us a couple weeks back, and the meanings behind every word used in the Dene Suklinen language.
That's so beautiful stuff. Yeah. Completely amazing things when you get into it. Like, for example, is a really interesting word. And if you start to, it's not a word, it's just an expression, like an A or whatever. But a lot of us, we use It's a very important thing. And then you can hear se. You can really hear the punctuation of those words And I find it very common among the Dene people. The always that thing going on, and really interesting.
Yeah. How many in Doig River there? How many Dene speakers are there, or Beaver?
Oh, I think we're probably still about 30 to 40%, but mostly older people.
Yeah.
Though I think they from 50 and up, we can have a pretty good dialect language.
Mm-hmm.
But then as you get older, 40 and 30s and 20s, it gets really lower and lower. So that's why we're really pushing for. We've been documenting our stories since 1964. So we have a story about this white anthropologist, guy named Dr. Robin Reddington. He came here in 1964. That was when you got to understand in our history that 1945, that's when the Alaska Highway was built. So it's not that long ago. It's recent history. So 1964, he came and he had reel-to-reels tape that he recorded with. So he recorded all these older people like the Dreamers, and some of them were in 90 years old back then, because the older people used to live a long time because they were so healthy. So he recorded a lot of songs and stories, and he basically kind of saved it, because we would have lost most of it if we didn't have had it recorded.
Yeah.
So our nation has made a priority to ensure that there's funding available all the time to translate, to document all our cultural history. So that's how we're doing it. And all the stories from the only Nachi. Only Nachi means giant animal days.
Mm.
So we got story that goes back to those times. Only Nachi.
Yeah.
It's big animals.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. You mentioned earlier, the Dene Tsuut'ina are diverse everywhere. Which group of people? I'm sure there's Crees and maybe up in the Yukon, or a different group of people. Did they influence the Beaver peoples, their language and kind of dialect in any way? Do you know?
In some Cree has influence for sure. There is like Monial, for example.
Yeah.
That's a Cree word. That means white person.
Munyas.
So
Munyansik.
Monias or Monial or something like that.
Yeah, Munyas.
So definitely we adopted some Cree words.
Yeah.
But I think Beaver language itself, it's kind of its own little thing going on there.
Yeah.
But very similar to other Dene groups. But definitely Cree has influenced some of the words, because we just I guess the old people didn't know how to say white guy, so they just call him Monia. Samaganus is another one. Samaganus.
Samaganus is a last name. I think that it's a last name over here in Little Pine. I don't know. So Celeste, if you're still watching, is Samaganus, is that actually a Cree word?
It means policeman up here.
Please?
A policeman.
Oh, policeman. Oh, Samaganus. I don't know. It must be.
Yeah. Samaganus is Samaganus need do chance. The policeman will come and take you away if you're bad.
Yeah. That's how we say it too, Dene. Dene. So they take people
I guess
away.
It means RCMP. Samaganus means RCMP. I didn't know that. I literally just learned something now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Celeste.
I wanna
land, it says.
Yeah, I want to say when you were showing your map there, how the Anaheim Lake area, how do you say moose in Beaver?
Rata.
Oh, okay. Oh, I was in a ceremony in Kamloops one time, and they said he's praying and all this stuff, and they asked me to say something in Dene, and then he said, we got the word Denia from the Dene people. Denia is moose, the four-legged. That's what he was praying to, right? And in the ceremony. And I thought it was pretty interesting how you shared on your map that in that area, Anaheim Lake and Kamloops, it's a Kamloops area there, and there's Dene, how do you say it? Dene everywhere, Dene influence.
Yeah, I'm working on a new song called Northeast, Southwest, Dene, 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 Dene everywhere. Yeah, so it's really interesting how even down that far. I mean, I'm just discovering this within the last year.
Yeah.
About the scope of where Dene people are, or Dene relatives, because we have a lot of kinship. We use kinship as a way to understand who we are. And also down south, if you go down south, the coastal Indians, they have totem poles.
Yeah.
To tell their stories, right? And they have these long houses and all that. Well, Dene people up here, Beaver people, we have totems of songs of our dreamers. So that's how we understand things and who's related to each other through the genealogy of the people. So I think a lot of Dene people use genealogy or kinship about who's related to who and how that works. It's a very sophisticated, beautiful system about who's related to who, how. Even if you marry into the family, you are now recognized as a mother or something like that. But it's kinship, through kinship, you just get into that whole system of it. So we use songs. Sorry?
Do you have clans? Or no?
No, we don't have clans. We have family groupings.
So just,
So, like I was saying, with family groupings with our songs, Nachi and that. So every family's got connected to somebody in their family was a Nachi. So we honor them through singing their songs. So
I'm literally learning, because I was telling Willis before, like I'm Cree from Treaty 6 area, Red Pheasant, and I've never really known anything about the Dene, and through Dene Yate podcast, learning a little bit. I know I learned Nuzu or Nazu is good. Nezu and their dialect. But I mean, just hearing the connection now, like through your area as well, Gary, like how the Crees kind of influenced, but how we all, and that's why I created this storytelling for the month, is how we're all kind of connecting through story. Like you're saying, how the Crees kind of had a little influence on you guys, but at the same time, the Dene probably had a little bit of influence on us Cree people, in the different areas. And then the farther you go east, we all connect somehow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we have what we call Creevers now.
Creever.
Creever.
Oh, Creever. Half Dene,
Creever.
half Cree.
So there's Cree and Beaver mixed together and have an offspring. Creevers.
Creever.
Oh man. I want to ask something that's I don't know if the Beaver, the Dene, now that we're talking about Cree and Beaver, but in our area, my area where I'm from, they always said the Cree and the Dene, they never got along. What is the story with the Cree or the Beaver in way northern, not Manitoba, BC? Is there anything like that?
Yep, there's always that Cree, you're Cree and I'm Beaver kind of thing still goes on too.
Yeah.
So the long time ago, the stories, I think this was happening in around 1700s. There was when the Crees were coming in with the traders, because they were kind of business people. So a lot of Crees are business people, they're entrepreneurs. So they see an opportunity and they just jump at it. So that's pretty good. So back in the day when they were opening up they were coming this way. So the Crees had guns already, so they were kind of advantaged. So we're pushing back a lot of the Beavers back this way, and so I don't know if you know Alberta, but they're as far as Smoky Lake or Smoky River. That used to be all Beaver territory, right into Edmonton area. They used to go there too. So, but then they kept pushing them back. So one time, the warriors of the Crees and Beavers met each other at the Peace River. So at the same time, they went there on both sides, and they were yelling at each other. And so after a while, they said, "Okay, what are we going to do about this here? We're in stalemate. Who's going to go first?" And nobody wanted to go first because there's a disadvantage, you see, being in the water versus other way. So they were taunting each other, but they couldn't get nobody to make the move. So they finally, the leader said, "Okay, so why don't you send your best warrior, and then we'll send ours." And they'll meet each other right in the middle, and whoever gets pulled back will decide what to do. So there was a lot of arguments amongst each other in our story. That's these brothers were arguing with one another because they felt that they were stronger and they should be going. So and I'm sure they had that in Cree, on the Cree side too. So they finally decided, okay, we got our best warrior, your best warrior, go together. So they swam right to each other, right in the middle, and they start pulling each other back and forth, back and forth. They were doing this all day long, just going back and forth, back and forth. And finally, the beaver pulled the Cree up out of the water and pulled them back to the beaver side. And then they, at that moment, they killed them, and they said, "Okay, we'll decide what to do. So you guys stay on that side, we'll stay on this side of the river." So that's how the Peace River started, the name of Peace River. Originally, the Cree and Beaver had that war, and then they decided. So what we found out in the story was that the Cree had the power of the beaver. And the beaver had the power of the swan. And that's why it took them that long, all day long, to they had a lot of power. Back in the day, they used to have the spiritual powers. So that was one of the story that we had from Cree. But then, of course, the fur trade brought in a lot of different people, and people were coming in, the Crees were coming in and became friends with our people, and then intermarried with the community, and now there's Creevers running around all everywhere. But there's still that Cree and Beaver thing. I don't know why. Because right now some of these guys, they speak Beaver, they speak Cree, they speak English and French, just like back in the old time.
Yeah.
They spoke a lot of multi languages. My grandpa spoke 5 languages.
Wow.
So it was good for trade because, you never know who you're going to come across. And then when you met somebody, you got to find out what language to speak. And then they can make the trade happen then. So, today, we love everybody. I think that if we follow our dreaming tradition, we all are part of humanity. We're all people. Human beings, basically. And then with that, we need to help each other, especially in the day of racism and all the suffering that a lot of our people went through. There's no use of fighting amongst each other. We need to do business together. So today, a lot of focus is on business development for us. We want to make sure that we generate our own income so that we can support the elders program. We can support extra things people need if they need to go out in the land. Well, it costs money to go out there. So you gotta make sure you generate your own income and revenue so that you can support these program that's good for the soul and for the spirit. So that we're open. We have a company called Ujong, as you can see on my thing, Ujong Development.
What does
it's a corporate structure that does business in Western Canada. So we're pretty happy with that.
Wow, man! I'm just I'm just like, I like the Cree connection here with the Denny. That's what I was like, getting. I'm taking.
Well, there's like like I said, there's a lot of Creevers running around here.
Creevers. I really like that. Creevers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to
Cree's got
say.
beautiful women, and so is Denny.
I want to ask. You mentioned the. Yeah, I know the Tsuut'ina Nation. They come from the Beaver people, right? That's what I was told. That they're part of the Beaver people in northern Alberta. Do your guys' language, the Beaver and the Tsuut'ina language, are they similar? Do you know?
I haven't heard too much of it, so I'm not sure. But I did hear a couple of people. It's the same thing. We know a lot of the words are similar.
Yeah.
But you need to hear it a lot to just I get it. You understand what you're talking about. But yeah, definitely there is Beaver on this side, Beaver on Alberta side. I think they said there's about 2,000 Beaver people in Alberta, or I don't know how far they go. But I know they're in Alberta for sure, and in BC there's about 1,000 here. So there's probably about 3,000 people, maybe Beaver people and descendants of that.
So, what are you doing to revitalize your language? Like, like right now, it's kind of we're at the utmost importance, I think, of any Indigenous language to revitalize. Like we were saying, the Maori. When I went there in 0506, when I lived there for almost a year, I couldn't walk in. There was certain buildings that I would walk into, and there was a white line or some kind of line, and they said as soon as you pass that, you don't speak anything except Tario, which is Maori. And, I was saying they're like 20, 30 years ahead of us. What are you guys doing to revitalize your language and to keep it strong?
Right now, we're trying to integrate it into everything we do. So the process now is like, for example, as you can see on my hat there, Ujong, we integrate everything, any kind of branding, any kind of jackets or whatever we're going to produce, we put Beaver languages on it. And so that's one way. So we got to visualize it. And every like names, for example, like roads in our community, we have names on roads and streets and stuff like that. That's Dene or Beaver. We also we just started up a brand new cultural language and heritage department. That is first of its kind for us. We finally got resources to put into it, to hire a whole bunch of people to work with the elders, to record them, to translate their stories. And the next step would be to turn it into a product line, like a storybook or video. We're also talking about reenacting, getting into reenacting some of these stories on the land.
Yeah.
So,
like
and then that'll be a great opportunity for everybody. Sorry?
Like the Cree and the how Peace River was named and stuff. I really like that story. That was interesting.
It's a very beautiful, long, powerful story. It talks about transformation, talks about a lot of power source and where it come from and all that. So another thing we're doing is, of course, I'm singing traditional songs. We do that a lot. We're making sure the younger people pick it up and be part of it. So we're training those guys. We're also integrating it into the local city. We have an agreement with Fort St. John, Fort St. John City Council, to municipalities. We're working with them to incorporate and bring some Beaver languages into the name in some of the streets and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then when they have ceremonies, that they understand and they recognize who we are. So a lot of outreach program is happening to make sure that it becomes really, it's not shameful, because back in the day when we were growing up, they try to shame us for being native, right? So we're decolonializing a lot of stuff. So that's definitely a way to do it. But the main thing is developing a dictionary right now. We're working on a 10,000 word dictionary.
Wow.
And I think that's what it's going to take to actually tell the story.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
So then once that is done, we are going to make sure that every person that's interested in Beaver language has an app. So right now it's on, everybody's got the iPhone, so we're going to get it in there for young people.
Mm.
So what else we're doing? Well, lots of artwork. We're doing a lot of artwork, visualize everywhere what the symbology is. So I'll give you an example. I don't know if you could see this, but one of the things,
Yeah.
see the beadwork?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a sticker that I developed for putting on the windows.
Oh, okay.
So
Nice.
that's honoring all the women that are bead workers.
Mm.
So then we also created a master. We're creating a huge exhibit. Like I said, the Site C discovered tens of thousands of artifacts. So we're negotiating with them to actually build a beaver house,
Mm.
a monolithic beaver house that can hold 2,500 people.
Wow.
So that concept is based on the giant animal story, One in the Tree. So now we're saying that the BC Hydro is now the giant animal in a modern context. They're the giant animals, and now we're the small little beaver people. But we're going to teach them to build a house that will have all our cultural heritage there in one spot, so that
Yeah.
people can really understand where all these artifacts come from. So we're doing a lot of different things. Every business that we make, partnership that we create, we integrate the history of our people, Beaver language, and we have lunch and learn program right now, where we can do an hour at a time how to speak Beaver, introduction to the words, what they mean. Basically, welcome, like honoring, like just basic conversation stuff. Jahanaje, how are you? Ujong asje. Juzene Wujong. I'm good. Today is a good day. Just basic conversation. When you greet people, you gotta say those words. So we have a very positive things that we're working on, and then of course the elders. We have one elder, Billy Itachi. He's in his 80 years old now, but he spent his whole life doing linguistic Beaver language stuff. So he's very happy that things are happening. So we listen to the elders. I mean, I think it's important for us to make sure that whatever the elders want to see happen, we do it and find the resources for it, and make sure there's a budget for. As council, we have a council meeting and we say, okay, elders want our elders program. Okay, well, we need to put something in there. So we make sure that that is a foundation of everything we do. The philosophies, the thinking, encouraging so people can hear it. So even our stories, we have a lot of stories about Mosquito Man. That's the next thing that I'm working on right now, is to make those into animation, virtual reality. We're working with a Maori guy. Actually, he's a computer scientist, and there's only two computer scientists in Maori, and we're working with one of them. So we're building a virtual reality landscape so that people can go in and put those goggles on, or into an area where they can actually see, hear, feel all those languages. So we're building a ice age environment, so that when people put on this and they say, okay, we're going to take you back to the old days, our ancestors, this is what they're going to see. This is what's happening. And then in that space, you're going to have language. Everything will be done in Beaver language. So we're definitely looking at ways to innovative ways, animation, technology, to put this together so that it becomes integrated into seeing, hearing, and speaking Beaver worldview. So, but it's a challenging thing to change people's thinking about what is right and wrong, and we know that. But
Yeah.
if we
It's and I was gonna suggest maybe you should look into doing something like this, like Deneyate podcast is a very good example of live version where you're integrating that storytelling, but because of COVID we can't be together. And sure, there are people that frown upon it, but you know we have to try something to utilize whatever tool we have to keep our language strong. As me, I'm in my 40s and I know a few words here and there, right, of Cree. And right now I could go on to YouTube or whatever and start kind of learning the language, but at the same time I pay more attention to when it's live like this, and in a podcast form, when I like conversing with, like, I love listening to the stories of any indigenous background, and especially yours. But that could be something maybe you guys want to look into, doing something like this. You have Willis here that would definitely help you out.
Yeah.
I got one quick question here for you.
Yep.
How are the Beaver people related to the Navajo Nation?
We're
How are you? How
kinship.
are you cousins?
Cousins were.
What's really interesting is that the Navajo people got a story about. We have an amazing story about the dog that pissed on arrows, and other Dene people have that same story too, and the Navajos too. And I heard, I can't remember what Dene group. I think it's from northern Manitoba. There's Dene up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, there was a group that said one time that when the Dene people used to gather a lot every year, and as we know that there's always different gatherings. Everybody wants to gather. We get together and tell each other, and make peace and eat well together and dance and drum, and that's kind of the Dene culture, right? So back in the day, I don't know, this bow and arrow days, so there must have been tens of thousands of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The Dene got the gathering. So one day, one of the warriors came in. I don't know if he was late, he was tired, whatever, but he put his bow and arrows and laying it against the teepee. Then the dog come and pissed on it. So this woman saw that, and she started calling them out and say, "Look, what kind of guy you are, leaving your stuff there? The dog piss on it." You know how those old timers are, right? They just kind of scold you about it and say, "What are you trying to do here? You can't leave your stuff laying around. The dog will piss on it." So sure enough, the dog pissed on it. And then, of course, by this time, everybody's gathered around to see what's happening. And then, sure enough, the dog pissed on his arrows. So he picked up his arrows and shot the dog and killed it. Of course, the owner got up and said, "Holy crap, that's my dog, my good hunting dog." They start fighting, and then before you know it, everybody jumped in. And there was a big fight going on, and they're killing each other. And the only thing that stopped them was it got dark, so they can't see what's going on. So the next day, they found out all the damage that occurred. People got killed here and hurt really bad. So then all the elders got together and they had a council meeting. They said, "Okay, it's getting way out of hand. Too many people. Everybody's got to scatter about now. Got to go their way." And that's the original story of the why over the place and in smaller groups. But back in the day, they couldn't really afford to stay together that big and a big tribe, because it just
Too much fighting.
it's not practical. So, and then when that war happened, they actually spread all over, and then some of them went down south, which are the Navajos, probably in California too, Northern California, and Chichitini down there. So everybody spread all over. That's original story of the dog that pissed on arrow.
Wow.
Really interesting story, because when I met with other Dene leaders, they said, "Oh yeah, we heard a similar story too," and they tell their story, right? So, and then so one day, I think it was Bruce Starlight from Chichitene. He told me that like we heard that when they used to gather back in the day, there were so many of them, they had two pipes going. And then we still got the original one. They still got the original pipe. But one is unaccounted for up north. And I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting, because I didn't hear too much story about Beaver people having pipes. So then when I got home and we were setting up a cultural camp at one of the parks called Swan Lake, this one white guy came in and he said, hey, I got a whole bunch of artifacts that I found on my land, which is about 3/4 of a mile from the lake. But let me tell you a story about my neighbor. Years ago, probably in the 50s or something, they were doing an auging. They were auging with putting fence in. So they hit something, they pulled it out, and out comes about 12-inch rock stem with a hole in it, and you can see it's all polished. And it's actually what they found was a pipe stem.
Wow.
Yeah. So, anyways, we're going to be searching that, because that's really interesting to connect that story, those stories, and that's what a lot of Dene people are starting to do. Like I know Norman and National Chief and a lot of us, we keep talking to each other and about it, and say we need to connect those stories so that we don't lose it, because now is the time to do it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do another song here. What's up, Dane? Chidaya. Kena chidaya kwetaya. Kena chidaya wajinge. Dana ke. Dana ke. Danake. It's people's way.
Cool, man. I like your singing. I don't I don't understand it, but I like it. It's good music. Makes you like.
Yeah, get you going, eh? You gotta, just like the drum dance. We know how to do that. Hand games and all that. So we just got to encourage everybody to keep exploring. We got to explore new ideas like the podcast. I definitely want to follow up on that. Learn how to do this kind of stuff myself so that I can pass it on.
Yeah.
So
I'm back. Was I frozen there for a bit?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
My internet is battling the red. We got a storm out here.
Yeah, over here too.
Yeah, how you doing, Gary, for time?
We got to get going here because I got another call I got to take here, and my battery's dying, and I didn't plug it in, and so.
Okay.
Yeah, Gary, I want to thank you for coming on. I know you said you only had a half. I kind of figured you were going to go over longer because that's everyone in a podcast. Oh, I only got this much time, and then all of a sudden we're like 2 hours later.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on here and teaching, especially me more about, different Indigenous cultures, especially the Dene. You've really opened up uh, a new,
New
I guess,
land.
new storytelling to me. Yeah. New ideas how to connect. So, and I'm glad you got to meet Deneyate here podcast. I hope one day you're on his podcast soon too. It's all about that storytelling and how we all connect with each other. Now I'm finding out we kind of had, how the Crees were connecting with the Dene and now the Peace River, story. And obviously there's many, many more. We don't have enough time, obviously, but I want to really thank you for coming on. Definitely would love to have you on again. But if you want to say anything else, if Denny Ate there, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just want to say, thank you to Nathan for asking me to come on, and this is what I do too. Deneyati is Deneyati podcast is Sayatia Den Haldayastiu, and I speak to people in the language. The whole show is in Dene, and tonight I got a show at 6:00 Saskatchewan time. He's actually a linguist who learned to speak the language. So if you ever want to tune in and see how I do it, and then if you want to get together and connect, and I'm more than willing to help you. And yeah, so there's a lot of good things in this, and I enjoy doing it. I enjoy meeting you virtually. So masi cho, and yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Hasa ni chicken I want. That means you make me good. You make me happy. Sa ni chicken I want. That means you make me happy. Thank you. I definitely want to follow up on it. We want to do something for the young people through this podcast. I give you my contact. You can send me something, and we'll keep connected. And thanks for inviting me to the show.
Yes. Do you want to say anything to close out, or you good to go?
I'll close out with a traditional song.
All right. With that, you guys tune in tomorrow. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow. We do have another guest, 12 to 2 Saskatchewan time. I want to thank you for coming on another episode of CWS Indigenous Storytelling. And we will see you guys tomorrow. Deneyate, stay online after the song. We'll that you guys take care.
Understand.
Masi cho.